It's NFL draft night and the first CIC night of the spring. Plus NBA and NHL playoffs continue, and the Reds and Cubs are now in first and second place in the NL Central. That and so much more coming up on the Central Indiana Sports Report's 10-minute daily report. 10 minutes tailored specifically for Central Indiana sports fans. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt, and I love Central Indiana sports. Coming up today, Thursday, April 23, 2026. The NFL draft is tonight. Now you will claim its first number one pick overall without a major surprise since Corby Davis in 1938. NBA and NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, college softball, news and notes, and a look ahead to Thursday evening, including the first CIC Baseball softball night of the spring. Quick programming note, the show is 7 days a week. For now, it's 1 to 3 p.m. on weekdays, earlier if I can, and first thing on weekends. Thank you so much for joining us. Your 10-minute update begins now. The first round of the NFL draft is tonight. Now, IU quarterback Fernando Mendoza will be the number one pick to the Raiders, unless the Raiders trade the pick, which seems like a very small possibility. Apparently, they are fielding calls. The rest of the night is up in the air, as much as I can remember, starting with the number 2 pick and the New York Jets. It looks like it'll be one of 2 pass rushers, either David Bailey of Texas Tech or Arvell Reese from Ohio State. Reese will be one of 5 Buckeyes taken in the first round. 4 of them could go in the top 10. Another storyline we'll be looking at is which team panics and trades up way too high to draft Ty Simpson or Carson Beck. Coming up right after the 10-minute report, Mike Hutsell previews tonight's first round. Former Lawrence North and IU star wide receiver Omar Cooper Jr. should also be drafted tonight in the first round. The Jets at 16 seems to be like the consensus, but don't count out the Rams at 13 or the Ravens at 14. D'Angelo Pons could also go in the first round, but likely will go early on Friday. Elijah Surratt will likely be drafted on Friday or early Saturday. Of course, IU football scheduled its spring game for the same time as the draft. Needless to say, Bloomington will be the place to be tonight. More on all of it coming up on Tuesday on the IU Report with Grant Schaus and Mike Hutsell. Of course, the Colts traded away their first-round draft pick for Sauce Gardner. They're scheduled to pick 15th on Friday in the second round. The Colts also have the number 47 overall draft pick, and they'll also pick 78th in the third round on Friday. On Saturday, they have the 156th pick in the 5th, 214th pick in the 6th, 249 and 254 in the 7th on Saturday. And we'll talk with Will Rutherford on this show on Saturday after the Colts' second and third round picks. And we'll have a special Colts report on Saturday. Reigning champion Oklahoma City handled the Suns with no problem, as expected, 120 to 107 to take a 2-0 lead in the NBA Best of 7 first-round series. But the big news again is injuries. Jalen Williams left the game with a hamstring injury, and his status as of this very moment is unknown going forward in the playoffs. That could be trouble for them down the line, but they are so deep. Game 3 is Saturday. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the most consistent high-end scorers in NBA history, 37 points and 9 assists. Pistons Magic Game 2 was a defensive battle, except for the first 6 minutes of the third quarter when Cade Cunningham led a 23-3 Detroit run that turned a halftime tie into a 20-point lead. And with the Pistons defense, it was over right then. They had 11 blocked shots for 17 turnovers, and Orlando shot 33% for the game. It'll be Knicks at Hawks Game 3 at 7 o'clock tonight on Prime Video. That series is tied 1-1. Should be a great win. By the way, all 3 games tonight on Prime Video. I have Prime, and I have no problem with it, but if you're the NBA, do you really want to be hiding these playoff games from your fans? Seriously? And then Cavs and Raptors at 8. We'll see if Toronto can make a series of it as the series shifts north of the border. And the best first-round series of them all, the Nuggets in Minnesota for a 9:30 tip. Series is tied 1-1. These 2 teams are a lot of fun to watch. Can't wait. And as of Thursday, Spurs star Victor Wembanyama is still listed as day-to-day leading up to Game 3 against the Blazers in Portland on Saturday after he banged his head on the floor during Wednesday night's win. The Philadelphia Flyers stunned the Pittsburgh Penguins again, now up 3-0 in that Stanley Cup Best of 7 All-Pennsylvania series. The Flyers going for the sweep Saturday night in Game 4. The Dallas Stars won a double overtime thriller in Minnesota on Wyatt Johnston's game winner to take a 2 8-1 series lead. Those fans up there used to love it when the Stars won hockey games. The Ducks knotted their series with the Oilers with a 6-4 win in Canada. Tonight, the Sabres are in Boston. With that series tied 1-1. Puck drops at 7 and can be seen on TNT. The other two series are 2-0 with the team down 2-0, getting their first home games. The Hurricanes will try to go up 3-0 in Ottawa, and Colorado will try to go up 3-0 on the Kings in LA. Meyer-Shank Racing posted Wednesday that it has entered a sponsorship agreement with Acura, which intends to invest more in the IndyCar series going forward. Currently, the series runs Chevys and Hondas. Meyer-Shank will continue to use a Honda engine, special branding from Acura. It's the first time for Acura getting involved in the sport. It is minor news, but it could lead to bigger news in the future. No IndyCar report this week. Elijah is in the middle of a big phase in his life. We'll have a recap from the IMS tests for the Indy 500 on April 28th and 29th. And right now, we're just 31 days away from the Indianapolis 500. The Cubs will go for a sweep of the Philadelphia Phillies today at 2:20 at Wrigley. They made it 8 wins in a row on Wednesday night with a 7-2 win behind Pete Crow Armstrong's 3-for-4 2 RBI performance. The Reds had their 6-game winning streak snapped with a 6-1 loss in Tampa. They have the day off and host AL Central favorite Detroit for 3 games this weekend. It's now the Reds and Cubs on the top of the NL Central. The 16-9 Reds have a half-game lead on the Cubs with the Cardinals and Pirates a game behind them. And 3-time defending division champion Milwaukee is in last place. They're just 2 games back of the lead and still 3 games over 500. Also, the Mets snapped their 12-game losing streak with a 3-2 win over the Twins. Shohei Ohtani reached base for the 53rd consecutive game and also threw 6 scoreless innings in the Dodgers' 3-0 win over the Giants. And the Braves beat the Nationals 8-6 and now has the league's best record at 17-8. As I told you yesterday, all 44 Indiana Fever games will be on national television. As part of that press release, it was also reported that the NBA will play nationally televised games every night of the week. They are on the USA Network and Peacock on Mondays, ESPN on Tuesdays, the USA Network on Wednesdays, Prime Video on Thursdays, ION on Fridays, CBS and ESPN on Saturdays, and ABC and NBC on Sundays. We'll talk more about that and so much more this week on the Fever Report with John Robertson and Michelle Garman. That'll be on Sunday, probably late Sunday evening. We'll also hear from John on this show previewing and recapping the preseason opener Saturday in Brooklyn against the Liberty. Ball State's men's volleyball team advanced to the MIVA championship after beating McKendree 25-23, 25-18, 25-21 Wednesday at Worthen. The Cardinals will try to back up their regular season conference championship with a tournament championship Saturday at 6 against 2-seed Loyola Chicago. Back in Muncie, the winner will get the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. Some local news and notes. Blake Smith of Recruit Zone is reporting that Purdue, Indiana, Kansas State, and Miami of Ohio have shown interest in Blackford sophomore Mari Leggett. Just the beginning of that process. According to Sam Kaiser, Ball State basketball landed a commitment from Jazz Henderson, who played 13 games last year at Texas Tech. Alec Lasley tweeted Wednesday that the nation's top high school senior, Jalen Brewster, a defensive tackle from Cedar Hill, Texas, is visiting IU this weekend. I don't think that team's ever going to lose again. And former South Bend, Washington, and Purdue star Mila Reynolds tweeted that she will play basketball in New Mexico next season. And a couple of national news and notes. Alabama has signed head coach Kalen DeBoer to a 7-year, $87.5 million deal. Are we sure he's that good? The NCAA is considering 5 years of eligibility in 5 years for its athletes, and that could be enacted as soon as May, pending approval by the universities, according to Brian Fisher of Sports Illustrated. I spoke with Michelle Garman about women's sports in Central Indiana that will run after tomorrow's 10-minute report. She talked about McKenna, IU and Purdue women's basketball, Big Ten volleyball coming to Fisher's Event Center, the Fever and CIC softball, and IU beat Valpo 14-1 in 5 innings. The 35-12 Hoosiers go to Ann Arbor for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series this weekend. In high school softball, Elwood is 8-3 after beating Daleville 4-3 Wednesday. Kelsey Arms and Avery Savage had 2 hits apiece for the Panthers. Arms had a double and a triple. Franklin scored 9 times in the first 2 innings and beat Anderson 13-0. Zoe Kopis and Cassidy Ward Both went 3 for 3 with 3 runs and 3 RBIs. Kopis had a triple and a home run for first of the year. Blackford lost 8-7 at Shenandoah. The Raiders scored the winning run in the bottom of the 7th after Blackford erased a 5-run deficit. For Blackford, Kinsey Clammy, 3 for 4, a double, 2 runs and 2 RBIs. And in high school baseball, Alexandria broke a 2-2 tie against Class A number 4 Knightstown with 5 runs in the 5th. Brady Gass was 2 for 3 and drove in a pair of runs for the 10-3 Tigers, who take on 3-3 Madison Grant at 6 today, and perhaps the most interesting of today's CIC openers. 4 CIC baseball games, 4 CIC softball games, all Thursday afternoon. Same teams playing each other in the same location. The other CIC openers are Eastbrook at Blackford, Mississinawa at Elwood, and Alexandria. All 4 baseball games should be very competitive. I'm sure there will be 8 aces ready to go. A couple of really good ones on the softball field. CIC co-favorite and unbeaten Mississinawa is at 8-1 Elwood, and 6-4 Frankton is at unbeaten Oak Hill. Also on Thursday, the Indy Ignites women's professional volleyball team is in Orlando to face the Valkyries. Results from that and everything else on tomorrow's show, probably a little earlier than today. Please stay tuned for Mike Hutsell and his preview of the NFL Draft. Joined by Mike Hutsell, one of our IU guys, and I guess this is kind of an IU-themed NFL Draft, but here to talk about the NFL Draft in general. And Mike, do you ever think you'd see a day IU'd have a number 1 pick overall?
Nah, man, it's just surreal. It's like I talked about in the IU report. It's kind of just the final moment of events that I never thought I'd see happen, and now I'm going to see them all happen within about a 5-month stretch. It starts with the Big Ten title game, a Heisman win, the Rose Bowl, the Atlanta Peach Bowl, winning the national title, and now the number 1 pick in the NFL Draft, Fernando Mendoza. It's been a surreal run for this program, and this is kind of the culmination of it on Thursday.
And we talked all about all the IU prospects on the IU report this week. Please, everybody, go check that out. And it was a really good podcast. When you look at the NFL Draft outside of the IU guys and Mendoza, who are the potential franchise players that you're seeing here in the top part of the draft?
Well, as much as I hate to say this, the first round of this draft it's Ohio State tonight. They will just absolutely dominate the Thursday portion of this draft, and probably starting at number 2, they'll have Arvell Reese going to the Jets, and then from there, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Lorenzo Styles, Carnell Tate. Kind of wild that one school is going to put all this talent in the NFL. Tate's going to continue that wide receiver run that they've been on, and to me, Sonny Styles might be the best player in this draft. Inside linebacker, so positional value isn't necessarily probably going to be a guy taken, but man, he is just a game wrecker. And if you can get him, the Giants with one of those 2 top 10 picks, if you can get him and then stack him with Caleb Downs or something, if you're the Giants, I mean, you've completely redone your defense in one night. And so it's going to be a big Buckeye night. As much as I hate to say that, God, I really hate to say that, but they're going to be the talk of this draft coming out of Thursday.
They could have 5 in the top 10.
It's going to be up there. Depends on how you feel about Carnell Tate and where you slot him among the receivers. If he's the number 1 receiver taken, yeah, you could have 5 of the top 10 coming out of Columbus.
Insane.
And they lost their last 2 games of last year.
And I know you and I had a bit of an argument about this last year during the draft when the Raiders took a running back with the top 5 pick. And I know Jeremiah Love is good, but do you really get the value you need in the top 10 with a running back?
No. Unless you okay, if this is a situation like, say, it was like, so, and I'm going to go to a different league. If you're like the Pacers and you've got a ready-made roster, you just had a really bad year, And say you have a great offensive line in place and you just, for some reason, land in the top 5, yeah, take him. Absolutely. But if Arizona's sitting there at 3 with everything that they have on the table, if they take that guy, they're burning his best value. It's like what happened with Shaquan in New York. He was a great player, great talent, had great moments, but the best years that they got out of him, they were terrible on the field because they didn't have enough around him. And I've seen him go now. Okay, perfect spot for him, Kansas City at 9, because that fits exactly what we talked about. That's a team that's Kansas City. They've Super Bowl on top of Super Bowl. They had a bad year last year. You throw him on that roster, yeah, you're back probably contending for the freaking Lombardi Trophy. He goes to Tennessee at 4. It's a waste, and that's probably his most likely destination is Tennessee at 4.
Well, they got a tradition of running backs there with the Titans that they got to keep up. So
I suppose, but if you don't have a line to go with it,
that's right.
And I mean, you've got a lot of stock in your quarterback. You put a lot of draft stock in him last year. You've got to keep him upright. That's why I like the Miami tackle for them. But if they don't go that route, if they decide, hey, we're going to add another weapon, and the weapon just happens to be a running back, he might average 3.1 yards per carry for you next year. But talent-wise, he might be the best player in this thing. Let's be real.
You know who else might be the most talented player in this draft is Ruben Bain.
I 100% agree with you. And some of the things you hear about him are, okay, he doesn't have long arms. I watched that kid dominate every game I watched last year. He can be a T-Rex, but he's a damn good T-Rex. Kansas City gets him at 9. They're feeling pretty damn good about themselves. Kansas City's the most dangerous team in this draft because they're good. They just had a bad year. If they get an impact guy at 9, they're going to be right back at the top of the AFC with zero question.
Last question, Mike. You're an Eagles fan. What are your expectations from the Eagles? And will A.J. Brown still be an Eagle at the end of the night?
He will be at the end of the night. He will not go anywhere before June 1. The cap ramifications are just too. If you do it before June 1st, it's too much to throw on this year's cap. So he'll be there. Expectations for the night, I think you're going to see line heavy, which is kind of Howie Roseman's MO. He loves to draft the lines. And let's face it, their offensive line wasn't that good last year, and it's getting older. So I expect them to probably go offensive line with their first pick and maybe even with their second pick. They did that a couple years ago at cornerback when they were getting old and bad at corner. And I think you can see them go that route this year. I've seen at least one projection that has Omar Cooper going to the Eagles, which I would absolutely love as an Eagles fan. But realistically, it's never fun when your team's taking offensive line, but you also know if you have a bad offensive line, it's not fun to watch your team play. So
yeah, spot 23 though is perfect for an offensive lineman.
It is. And I've been spoiled by the Eagles over the last few years. Just they've been so good on the line for most of my adult life. Jeff Stoutland he's gone now, but he was such a good offensive line coach. I haven't watched a team with a bad offensive line in the NFL for so long that I kind of forget how much it sucks unless I'm watching another team play that has a bad offensive line, like Kansas City in that Super Bowl where the Eagles killed them. They just dominated their offensive line. So if the Eagles decide to go that route, they stock up on the line, it's going to be boring. I'm not going to have much to talk about, but hopefully as a fan, it works out for them because it's a good formula and it's worked for them for years.
Mike, I'm a Purdue fan. I am not an IU fan, but if the Colts draft any IU players this week, I'll be very happy.
I think that could be the sentiment of a lot of teams. If you get any of these IU guys that are projected to be out there, I think you're going to be pretty happy with what you get. You're going to get guys that are disciplined. They were obviously well coached in college. And they just seem like guys who are going to come in and make plays for you. And you could get good value. If you're sitting in the 6th round and you need an edge rusher and Mikael Kamara's sitting there, you're going to walk away pretty daggone happy if that's the pick you make. I have a feeling. And that applies to Aiden Fisher. It applies to Roman Hemby. It applies to Pat Coogan. Just any position. If the Eagles get Pat Coogan to be a center, I'm buying a jersey.
Coogan and Fit, I would love any of those guys, man. They are the epitome of football players. Every one of those guys at IU last year, and I'd love to have any of that on the court. All right, Mike, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it as always.
No problem, man. Go Birds.
Thanks so much to Mike and to you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.